Okay. Sandra Whitten is the image of the all-American woman. She is mother, wife, and friend of the community. She understands the hardships of people on the border and has dealt with the challenges of being in an interracial family. She grasps the need for real change in District 28, as well as the needs of Texans and Americans she will be fighting for in Congress. As chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, it is my pleasure to get to work with candidates like Sandra. Before running, Sandra had been a stay-at-home mother to her and her husband's 4 children, a church leader, manager, truck saleswoman, government liaison for project management in a shipyard, a baseball coach and Little League board member, a dance instructor, and many other things. All of her experiences have allowed her to have different views on a wide range of industries and life. Recently, Sandra has been described as a rising Texas conservative star and liberty warrior. Her message is that we can no longer be silent and lose our freedoms. We must stand up and fight. We must be bold to hold Texas, and we must restore the heart back to our nation. It will all start with Texas. Well, as chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, I could not agree with that more. I've had really positive interactions with Sandra on the road as we've both been out and about in her district. And I can't wait to have this conversation and let you all start to get to know the great candidate that we have representing us in running for Congressional District 28. So, Sandra, Congressman Cuellar has been in office a long time. How long, and why are you the right one to replace him?
Well, thank you so much for that introduction and for having me on your chat, Chairman Dickey. It's really an honor. Congressman Cuellar he's been in Congress for, at the end of this term, 16 years, but he's been in politics since the late 80s. I think I was 2 years old when he actually started. So that that kind of right there sets a big eyebrow raiser, if you will. It's you shouldn't necessarily be in this to just draw a paycheck. And I think that that's kind of where he's at this point in his game, if you will. Congressman Cuellar he's not been representing the people of District 28 well. He doesn't seem to care about what the true concerns are with the citizens. He likes to make a lot of pomp and circumstance and bring Nancy Pelosi down here as frequently as possible. But he's so busy showboating all of the big liberal politics that he's not listening to the people. I actually meet with people from our district, if not on a daily basis, pretty close to it. And I'm certainly in contact with them, at least on the phone, even through the shutdown. I've been making sure my presence has been known at food banks, and anything that I can do to give back to our community, we've been putting that focus on, because as the representative of People 28, you're supposed to be involved with the people of 28, not just with the people who have a lot of money. And unfortunately, that's exactly what he's been doing. So I think that by bringing in some fresh blood to the arena, we'll be able to really change that and stop doing politics as usual.
Well, and I couldn't agree more. It's nice to have a fresh face like yourself representing the party. One of the things that I got a call from the Houston Chronicle the day after the filing deadline shut down, and they said, oh my gosh, you guys have seen 100% increase in the women running as Republicans for Congress in this one time. And, you are part of that, the new folks stepping up. And one of the points that I made is that it wasn't that we went out and said, please, please, women come run. We went out and said, we need people who will advance our principles, who will fight for our policies, who want to make the world a better place. And we have, we can't roll out a red carpet, but we are red. we're going to keep Texas red, but we have data, we have tools, we have stuff available to help anyone willing to put themselves on the line. And it is running for office, put yourself on the line. So thank you for doing that. But there's a lot of struggles involved in running. So what's been your biggest struggle in South Texas running, especially against Henry Cuellar?
I think the big thing is it's that it's especially against Henry Cuellar. You know, he kind of has his own little bit of a monarchy here. In fact, during the primaries, he said, "This is Cuellar country." And it's, you know, he's the congressman. His brother's the sheriff of Webb County, which is one of our largest counties, and out of the 9 that we have here in District 28. And his sister was a former judge and is running for tax assessor again. So they're really kind of billing themselves as this monarchy concept. And I've been very strong in saying, you know, we had this whole thing a few years back called the Revolutionary War because we don't want a monarchy in our country. So you know, that mentality, and you know, sadly, a lot of the people here still say, oh well, if the Cuellars say this, then that's just the way that it has to be, even though we don't necessarily agree with it. And you know, fundraising has been especially hard. We've had people go through painstaking efforts just to come to us to say, hey, we are supporting you. We just can't have anything that financially or, you know, paper ties us to you. So, you know, the financing aspect of it has really been the only real struggle that we've had. The people themselves have been exuberant over what we have going on and the message that we have. They agree that the Cuellars need to go. I had people during the, you know, we have down here in Laredo, we have what we call the George Washington birthday celebration. And we had a bit of a controversy during that time with Congressman Cuellar being allowed to wear his campaign t-shirts into an event that we were told you could not. So I did what any strong woman does who gets told no. And I said, okay, I'll follow your rules, but don't let me catch any other campaign t-shirts in there. And sure enough, I did. So I put a piece of tape over my mouth with the celebration's name on it and kind of made a statement piece out of it. But what ended up happening from that was that we had people the following week at a parade literally coming out of the stand saying, thank you for what you're exposing. We're behind you all the way because you've got the courage to stand up to this essentially monarch system that they have down here. And, you know, we can't necessarily do anything to support you because a lot of the people down here don't have a lot of money. That's kind of one of the things with living on a border city. So they said, we're going to support you with our vote. You're giving us a reason to want to go and vote. So, you know, and we saw that in the primaries. I mean, I was blessed by being uncontested, yet we had a significant increase here in Webb County. At one point, we had 75% conversion rate from hard Democrat to Republican. And of course, that included people who had never even voted in a primary before. But, you know, that I don't want to say, look at what I've done by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just showing that there's a real fire, there's real vibrance here on the border that needs to be, you know, we've got to stoke those flames. And the people here in South Texas, I've said it from day one, they're the most conservative individuals I've ever met in my life. They love their God, their country, and their guns. And they are Texas warriors like I've never seen before. They've just never been able to have a true conservative voice stand up for him because Cuellar has touted himself as a conservative Democrat. But here, especially in the last few years, he's just been following in suit with whatever Nancy Pelosi says. So the struggles.
That is so unfortunate. And you're right. I tell folks all the time that you lose 100% of the races you're not in. And absolutely. So it is absolutely crucial. That's why we did our big candidate recruiting effort, because we wanted to be sure that we had a candidate in every possible race. And then we had the smallest number of unchallenged incumbent Democrats, and you challenging Henry Cuellar, that's an important race in that. And we'll spread the word on this. We'll post this on our Facebook. We'll post this on our YouTube, and we will help spread the word. Hopefully people from all over the country will pick up on it and get excited about wanting to help you in your race in this challenge. What do you think is, it's my pleasure. What do you think is the biggest misconception of the people in CD28 or about the people in CD28?
You know, I really, you know, kind of piggybacks a little bit off of my last statements there. You know, people think that since this is such a Democrat district that they fall in line with all of that. They're actually very strong supporters of not having abortions. You know, that's a big talking point, of course. They're very strong about wanting their Second Amendment rights and things along those lines. So, and there is a mixed population for, border wall, not border wall, immigration, just because so many families have started here that, necessarily didn't necessarily do it the right way. But there's so many families who have done it the right way with doing the legal process and all of those kinds of things. And they kind of feel like it's a slap in the face to those who feel like they can just, come in here and stick their hands out and get what they want. And that's something that I hear over and over and over again. It's something my own mother-in-law has said. My mother-in-law is actually a resident alien. And my father-in-law, they did everything right. They made sure that all the paperwork was in order and this, that, and the third. And they said, we had to work for every single bit of this. And, my husband completely agrees with those sentiments. It's not fair to everyone who's had to do it the right way, who's had to pay the money, who's had to go through the process. Good things come to those who do it the right way. So that's something that I think a lot of people down here just assume that everyone, is here illegally and they're fine with it. And that's not necessarily the case.
No, absolutely not. And some of the most adamant pro-immigration control, protect the border folks I know are folks who immigrated here, first-generation immigrants who did it the right way and did the hard work and don't like the idea of being hurt or disadvantaged by folks who jump to the front of the line. So,
right. And I think that a lot of it, it is for the ones that are still kind of on the fence because they don't want to, say, hey, my grandparents did it wrong or, things along those lines. I think that they are starting to see, maybe there was some truth in some of this. Maybe it's not that they hate us because we our family may have come in here undocumented or things like that. And I think that once and especially right now with all the racial tensions that are going on, unfortunately in our country, it's a great opportunity to be able to talk about it. And it's always a taboo situation one way or the other, but it's still something that we have to discuss because if we don't discuss it openly, we can't fix it. Everyone wants to talk about immigration reform and everyone wants to talk about border security and this, that, and the third, but nobody's willing to facilitate a true conversation on both sides of it. And realizing that it's not necessary, it is a black and gray or a black and white situation. You're either here legally or you're not. But until we can actually have open conversations about how to fix the problem and deal with what we have, because right now we have, that is one of the things that we do face is that people just assume, oh, well, she's a Republican, so she's going to hate me because my grandparents or my parents or whatever came in here illegally. And that's not the case at all. We want to be able to restore the heart and get everything working the way that it's supposed to. We've got a great system. We just have to follow the rules of it.
Absolutely. And one of the wonderful things about being conservative is seeing that our policies produce the best result over and over and over again. And anyone who looks at the last few months in the United States in general, and in Texas in particular, and says that in the midst of a coronavirus response world, that it doesn't make sense to control our border when we're trying to control how big the crowd is at the local restaurant. But to argue that we should not at all control our border, that's insane and has been proven so. And then right now, as we see these riots, anyone who says that the right to self-defense should be infringed and people should not be able to protect ourselves, when it used to be when the saying was, when seconds count too often the police are minutes away. Right. Boy, this week we've seen plenty of cases where the police aren't available, period. No, right. Not minutes away. They're just not available.
Right. They're busy with the crowd control and taking care of, we saw it in San Antonio and for example, where we literally had to have a wall of law enforcement and even a wall of militia style, if you will, men and women who were there to protect our Alamo, for example, from the rioters that were literally trying to take it down. So now we're having to pull those extra police resources. And then you have your more rural areas of even the big cities like San Antonio, where the police are having to put their focus here. So, look at where their resources are not.
Well, even the Alamo and the Cenotaph, that's a great example. It took hundreds of voluntary def- able to defend themselves citizens were actually the front line of defense,
Right.
with the police backing them up. But it was the police needing the help of the citizens, not the other way around. And
Right.
and so just once again, it was conservative principles shown to be right over and over again.
Absolutely. And, I think that that even right there speaks volumes about what we can do when we work hand in hand with law enforcement instead of against law enforcement, and what we can really accomplish when we all come together for the same goal.
Absolutely. I've got a dear friend who served for many years on the Laredo Police Force right there in Webb County, and you talked about the voters switching over in Webb County. Definitely want to give a shout out the party there. The local county chair has been working hard. We've got more candidates like yourself who stepped up. That was a big part of why we worked so hard to recruit candidates, because you lose 100%, you're not in. But also you can't, if you have a chance to catch lightning in a bottle, you can't do it if you're not there.
Right.
And so thank you for stepping up again to be willing to do this. And you did that not just in a tough district, not just in a Democrat leaning district, not just where there's an opponent that people think of as almost a don, right? Which is a thing we need to fix. Uh,
Right.
but but you are the first Republican woman to run for this office. How have people responded to that?
It was kind of funny because when I decided to run, it wasn't a deciding factor for me. It really wasn't. And one of the early members of my team was one that actually pointed that out. He goes, "Did you realize that?" And I said, I had not. That's kind of crazy. And I had made reference to it at a TFRW event early on, and the crowd literally just went wild. And so it's very empowering to know that this is a moment that we women can really rise up. And we see, especially like here in places like South Texas, and we're seeing it all over the nation, where, no offense, Chairman Dickey, but the men have just been messing it up. And sometimes it takes a little bit of a elbow grease that us women seem to have a little bit. We can see things from a different perspective. And that's not to take anything away from the good men that we have that have been working, tirelessly around our state and country. But sometimes you just need a woman's touch. Sometimes mom just has to go in there and give the look and get things accomplished. And, I think that what we're seeing in my case, especially, is that we're having all of these women just kind of show up. Women who have always felt like they never had a voice, or, well, this was the man's job, or, things like that. And it was nothing that I really ever not that type of role that I expected to walk into. But to have women come up to me and tell me, "Sandra, you're giving us so much hope. I never thought that I could be a part of something like this. I never thought that me as just a housewife could do something so significant." I had another woman here locally. I saw her at a candidate meet and greet here during primaries. And she said that she was looking at maybe running for city council. And she said, "You were actually one of the people that inspired me," because I said, "You know what? Sandra's got 4 kids. Her oldest is a teenager, and her baby is literally a baby. Charlotte's a year and a half. She's only a year and a half." And she's like, "And look at what you've been doing for the last year." She said, "If that doesn't send a clear message that what women can actually do when we're determined to make a true change in something, then I don't know what's supposed to wake people up." But just that alone, I mean, you're speaking to women across the country. And we found, from our Facebook demographics, like, the women are just, they're going, "Keep on fighting. You're exactly what we need." But the men are coming up saying the exact same thing, going, "Hey, this girl's got what it takes." And the accolades just completely overwhelm me. And it's something that I think really will speak well, because we have, unfortunately, a lot of times in certain cultures, we see where women are kind of demeaned and said, "Hey, just go make me a sandwich and get back to doing your woman stuff." And we're showing that that's not the case. It's really going to be the year of the woman, if you will. And it wasn't necessarily planned that way, but just kind of seeing where God's leading it, you can't mistake it. It's definitely something that God's got his fingers all up in.
No, I felt like it was very much in keeping with our principles and our policies and what we've always argued for, that it was the reporter after the filing window had closed who called and said, "Oh my gosh, look at all these women you had." I was just excited we had a bunch of great candidates,
Yeah.
and we weren't. It wasn't. I think it was wonderful that we had set an environment
Mhm.
where you didn't think twice about running. I didn't think twice about running. I was excited to have somebody committed, determined from the district, wanting to represent the people of Congressional District 28, who was willing to step up and do the tough battle of an uphill race. And the fact that we also happen to have a giant increase in the number of women running and minority candidates running, that's all just wonderful icing on the cake.
Absolutely. I mean, it truly speaks well that we are a truly diverse party, and that our principles are, they know no, they're not, I've always made the joke that the GOP stood for Grandpa's old party. I remember telling my SREC when I decided that I wanted to run, I said, what's the number one problem that we face in the Republican Party? Is that outsiders look at us as the old rich white men's club. And I said, the only thing I got going for me out of those qualifications is white. So, it's hard to even give us the racism card, at least in my case, because my family's Hispanic. So, we have a lot of counter arguments already just coming into this. And so it was truly amazing what God's doing across the state of Texas with opening the doors for all of the candidates, male or female, and seeing the diverse nature of every single one of us, and knowing that our number one thing is to keep Texas red and to go forth and fight, no matter what level of government we're looking for a seat on.
Absolutely. We do not exercise racism or any kind of sexism, and we don't tolerate those who do.
Absolutely,
Uh,
100%.
Proud to be a member of the Republican Party of Texas, where we live out our values. So, what do you think? As you're running, and obviously you want to make things better. Part of that would be your representation. Part of that would be a fresh perspective and a grassroots perspective from the district. But what elements, what things do you most want to see improved or changed in your district?
I here in this kind of focuses a little bit on the southern part of our district, and so to our friends in the northern part, I apologize ahead of time, but we have I've got this kind of historical economic package, if you will, that I've really been putting a focus on in my talks of how we can grow and do things a little bit differently. In San Antonio, which we have Bexar County, but we part of Bexar County, but it's not San Antonio. It's the outskirts of it. But we have literally the road to the Alamo. And so down here in South Texas, we have so many historical buildings, and we have so much history and life and richness that leads us to the Alamo. And if we start bringing those things in and start incorporating those, and as Republicans, I think we're naturally just in love with the history of everything anyway, because we see where it all works together. And I've preached my entire life, if you don't know your history, then you can't know where you're going to go. And as Texans and as Americans, it's so important that we do put that emphasis on our history. So that's one thing that I want to do, and it does several things. Not only does it give us an economical package of allowing our hotels and restaurants and all of those kinds of things to thrive, but it gives our community a sense of pride and joy of, what, we've never looked at our community that way before. And when I'm having these conversations, they're going, what, you're absolutely right. And kids love history. They love to be able to kind of put themselves in that situation. I grew up in southeastern Virginia, where we have all the Revolutionary history, and my brother and I used to do that all the time. We would go running through the streets of Colonial Williamsburg or Jamestown or Yorktown going, what would we have done? Would we have sided with the Patriots, or would we have been loyal to the crown? And, it just kind of gets your imagination flowing. And what that does is it broadens your whole horizon. It broadens your thought process, whether you're 6 years old or whether you're 66 years old. It doesn't matter. It kind of gives it all that coming together scene. And the cool thing is that going all the way up from the very farmost part in Hidalgo County that we have, all the way to the northern part of Bexar County that we have, and everything in between. It all can tie itself in there. And then, of course, we have the oil fields, and we see what's going on with them right now. And we have, our cattlemen and things along those lines. So those are all things that we know that we have, but they don't get the attention that they deserve, so that we can, South Texas, District 28 is literally the backbone of our state. Everything comes through here. We have the #1 land port. We beat the city of Los Angeles twice in less than 1 calendar year for the amount of trade that comes right through District 28. We've got to look at doing new roadways and changing the way our border security is working. Not necessarily that our agents are working, but how we're implementing walls and things like that. There are so many new concepts that are not even necessarily new. Some of these have been sitting literally on a shelf since Congressman Cuellar was Representative Cuellar back when he was in the state house role. So there's so many different things that this land in this district are just thirsty for, that he hasn't wanted to impose. And by doing things that people who've been here for a long time, longer than me or you, oh, I'm so sorry. Longer than me or you. Did I lose you?
I gotcha.
Okay. Longer than me or you, then we can totally change everything and make this district shine the way that it's supposed to.
That's fantastic. Well, I got to tell you, we have 2,118 Republican candidates running in races all over the great state of Texas. We've got 36 congressional races, and your race, CD 28, that's one of those crucial 36 congressional races. We've got a chance to flip that district because we've got someone who's energetic and determined and committed to making a difference in her district running right now. I'm grateful to you for being willing to do it. I have been a candidate. I know how hard it is. And I am grateful to you. I see you out and about, both when I'm out and when I'm in other parts of the state. I see you out and about. Keep that up. Keep up that energy. People would like to come donate to you, support your candidacy. What website should they come to?
It's www.sandrafortexas.com.
That's a great website, sandrafortexas.com. Spell it out, FORTEXAS.com.
Yes, sir. That's it.
And
follow us on Facebook. That's where you see most of our activity is on Facebook. We have a really good presence there. So make sure you're following us there so that you can see the latest and greatest that we have going around 28 and the rest of the state.
Oh, that's fantastic. Really appreciate that. Would you like to wrap up with a few words for the audience?
Sure, guys, I've been saying it since day one. It really is going to take the entire state to save 28. And the president needs us here in District 28 for multiple reasons, for our trade, for our border security, and just the different aspect and things that we have going here. 4 years ago, when President Trump was running, we didn't see a MAGA hat or sticker or anything along those lines. Now we see it every single day. Our chairman, Bill Young, is almost running out of Trump pent signs already because people are so on fire here in District 28, but people are also afraid to open their pocketbooks. So that's where I'm going to need the rest of you guys to help us out there, because people don't know that it's okay to be a little bit different, but they are catching the fire. They want to see the change. Help bring change to District 28, because I want to be their voice. Because even though I'm representing District 28, I will also be making decisions that will affect Texans and Americans all across this United States. So anything you can do to help support my campaign, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
There you go. You heard it from Sandra Whitten, Republican candidate for Congressional District 28, a crucial border area of Texas. Please go to Sandra for Texas, Sandra, FOR Texas.com, and donate Sandra's race. Sign up to help her. She is a great candidate, one of the many great candidates we have running in Texas right now. Help her, help us make a difference in Texas. God bless you, and God bless Texas.
Bye-bye.